Hello and thank you for being with us. My name is Corey Fuller. I am the program director for Legacy. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, and the date is May 9th, 2015. With us, we have 6 of our Legacy students, and we want to discuss relevant topics and have the students discuss their opinions and views. And the question that we want to ask our students is this. America has taken notice of the violence between police and young men of color. What do you believe is the cause of this increased violence, and what solutions would you suggest?
There are situations where the cop is abusing their power, but there's also situations where the criminal that's made to look innocent is actually guilty probably in some way, but they were probably doing something to provoke the officer. So it varies upon the situation whether the officer is being abusive or was actually taking the correct orders, or the criminal was innocent or guilty. Sometimes excessive force is used, and sometimes what was given was deserved.
That's a heavy statement. Anybody else?
Well, my name's Nigel Morgan. I say that media is also to blame. It also paints a picture of a negativity towards black people, like violence, shooting, and things like that. So in that sense, it gave America something to be scared of. It painted people as a threat. And the hardest thing for a man of color to do is become an individual. So when they look at that media and they see like a student of my color, they're gonna think, okay, he's a black guy, I'm gonna have to defend myself. They're gonna see me as a threat, and so I'm gonna have to pay a consequence for something someone else did.
My name is Julia Ortiz, and I agree with Nigel. The media is a big part in everything that's going on. Police brutality has been going on for a long time, and towards colored people especially. Nowadays it's getting more attention because the media is going into just the negative parts and everything, like the protesters and all of that, the riots, and it's not just that. They don't focus on protesting that's peacefully being done. They're focusing more on the riots and things that are negative.
Well, my name is Arlene Melendres. I would like to say that I agree with them as well. There have been instances in which there's police officers who take the wrong form of procedures to handle certain situations. There was a few weeks ago just an 8-year-old boy of color who was shot and killed by a police officer at the park because he was playing with a fake toy gun. Now, the little boy was just at the park playing. Some person called 911 saying that he was intimidating the people at the park. The police officer knew that the gun was fake, but he intentionally went to the park and shot the little boy. Now the little boy was of color. Police brutality has been increasing this few years, especially with people of color. I think police officers lack the critical thinking skills they need, so they need to improve on that.
If I may, you stated that the officer knew that the gun was fake. Was there additional information that came out that to lead you to believe that he knew that the gun was fake, or why did you say that?
So they recorded the 911 operation call. The 911 operator informed the cop that the gun was fake. He knew it was fake when he went to the park, when he got to the location.
And so that's recorded, and that information has been released, you're saying, and somehow, even though he had that information prior to going to the call, he ended up fatally shooting this 8-year-old?
Correct.
Wow.
There are other actions he could have took. He was a little kid. Why would?
Sir?
Well, hi, my name is Suzianes, and I like to be more on the neutral side, like Javion Jones said. There are cops that take police brutality to the max, and and criminals that are faulty of a situation, for example, of guilt, they do take it to a point where it's not okay to do, but when the cop acts on it, they consider police brutality, and with doing so, the black community takes it as a whole, as in the cops are against them, cops are trying to go attack every single one of them, but in reality, it's just the one thing. If the criminal acted a certain way with or the person who's at fault acted a certain way with the police officer, it would have been a different situation, but it all depends from the police officer to the criminal or the person at fault.
So you're African American male, Nigel. How do you feel about that statement?
Well, honestly, I feel like, okay, he does have a point, but it's like, whether it's right or wrong, like, if you're doing a crime, yeah, you're going to do what you have to do, but you shouldn't have to die in the process. Like, as a cop, they should have, like, procedures, like, what you do in order in this situation, because there's a lot of situations where the one they shoot really don't have a weapon on them and things like that. And even if you do have to shoot, it doesn't have to really be a kill shot, like, you can do it for a leg or something like that. And, like, basically, I believe that, like, no matter what you do, you shouldn't deserve to die of something like that.
In reference to the leg shot, and I have prior police experience, and I've heard that comment before, why don't you take a leg shot or something? And to my knowledge, most police departments are trained not to maim people. Actually the verbiage is to shoot to stop the threat. And shoot to stop the threat essentially means that you're going to aim center mass of the target. And it depends on the given situation what is center mass. It could be the chest area, it could be the center of your forehead, depending on the situation. And so there may be a misconception that people believe, well, why can't they just shoot in the leg? By all means, they're not trained to maim people. It is to stop to shoot the threat. Now, what is your opinion about stop to shoot the threat? We're talking about an individual who's unarmed. I mean, how does that happen if they're unarmed and they get shot 6-7 times?
That's definitely a case where another route could be taken. There's other weapons or other ways they could have used to take down the suspect, especially if they're unarmed, especially if they have backup. I believe most of them are armed with stun guns, and those would be nice to use.
And to many of the police officers' credit, they have to make these decisions like that. These are life-threatening decisions. And I believe one of you had made a mention of that they need to use critical thinking. Who was that stated that? Can you follow up on that as far as the critical thinking? You think, do they need more training, or what if you can just follow up on that statement?
Yeah, so I was discussing the same topic with one of my teachers who used to be a former police officer as well. He says the same thing, that police officers are trained to shoot center mass, so it's the face or in the torso area. In the case of the little boy that got shot, he says if the police officer feels like they are in danger, if their life is endangered, the first thing they have to do is shoot center mass. So whether he knew the gun was fake or not, it's his natural instinct to just shoot center mass. I personally don't agree with that. If the little boy were to be running or trying to get away, shoot for the feet. But I don't think it was fair for him to be shot and killed.
I think to help with the critical thinking, the consequences and punishments of when there actually is a case of serious police brutality, they should be stronger. So they would want to refrain from doing it. And also, they've been testing cops wearing cameras in certain states, so that they're always monitored. It's not just a dash cam, like they have a camera in your vest. I think that would help with a lot of cases, so there's always evidence of what actually did happen, and not just the word of the cop or word of witnesses that may try to beef up their case so that it doesn't look as bad.
Earlier we were talking about media, and because of media, my question to you is this. Has the violence between police and particularly young men of color increased, or is it that we're just more aware of it because of media, like social media? Everyone has a camera, and I'm assuming all you guys have a smartphone, so people can get their phones out and they can record stuff, and it can go on Facebook, it can go live like that. Do you feel that, with that being said, that the violence has increased, or we just have more exposure and knowledge of it?
Okay, with that, I think that it goes both ways, because it was probably the same, like minorities getting killed and stuff like that, but no one really paid attention to it because it didn't hit the media and no one had like access to cameras and stuff like that to record. But now, since we have all that stuff, what we tend to do is pretty much start recording or whatever the case may be. So I think that when it was happening back then, all that stuff wasn't created. But now that it's there now, that's how we get our proof to tell like the stories on what's going on. So I think with the media, it's bringing it out, like it's making it seem like it happened more. But it's like giving proof and giving us like it's how do I put it? You're okay. So
Anybody wants to chime in? Or?
Well, I do believe the violence has increased. Doing so, the killing of a young male in Baltimore has increased the violence because riots have erupted. Public property has been destroyed because of the individuals acting upon that killing, which doesn't really involve them, but they feel like they have to get the word out there. But by destroying public property and causing riots, it's not going to help anything. So there's a better way and peaceful way of doing it. But there's no point of going out to destroy something that has nothing to do with the killing of a young man.
Yes, ma'am.
You said something about the riots, how that's raising up awareness and that has nothing to do with it. I believe that the riots are happening because nobody's paying attention to what's going on. And if they pay attention to a burning building but they don't pay attention to people protesting peacefully, then they're gonna do that. They need people to know.
I feel like you could take the steps to bring your peaceful protesting to light more. We've had, with other issues in the past, going way back, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, they brought more attention to peaceful protesting. The violent protesting, there's no point, as he said, in destroying property and making other people's lives worse that had nothing to do with it. People, there's an owner of that store. That's someone's store. Someone owns that. There's not all cops are pigs, or as they say, cops are pigs. There's cops that will save you. You might be in a situation where a cop has to save you the next day. So there's no point in taking out on the generality. Just focus more on one point and something that doesn't affect other innocent people.
If we can conclude with that, and I'll start with you, what I would like to know, what is your guys' perception of the police? And if so, do you have a fear of police? What is your perception, and do you have a fear of police?
I believe cops are good, but there are some bad ones, and we need to take care of the ones that are bad. And since there is a lot of bad ones right now that we know of, well, we need to find a solution.
I believe the media does play a big role in advertising that, but just like SB 1070 subtly targeted Hispanic people, there are some cops that, which along with prejudice, who have prejudice, they do target people of color.
I believe all cops are nice. They're good people, just as individuals put it. The individual acts right with the cop, so be it. Nothing's really gonna erupt from that. But usually people like to take everything to heart, saying, "Oh, you're targeting me because I'm black. You're targeting me because I'm Hispanic." No, just act a certain way with me, and I'll act a certain way with you, and so on. And it'll be a peaceful situation.
Well, I believe like it most likely depends on the situation, if you're doing anything wrong or not. Because I have like experience where I was just walking, minding my business, and a cop stopped me, checking me, things like that when I had nothing wrong. But if I was like doing something wrong, like had a gun or something, I can understand that. But it's more like the situation, I would say.
There, as I said earlier, more neutral on it, there's some cops that may provoke the individual just because they have the power to, and there's some individuals that provoke the cop because of everything that's going on. And when sometimes people are stopped and they may not have been doing anything, but there may be a profile for someone that they're looking for that looks just like you or that's in the area or something. So if people get crazy off the jump and they provoke the officer, there may be you might have a bad situation on your hands. As he said earlier, if you act respectfully, I've never had a situation with an officer. Anytime I see an authority, person of authority, I talk to them in a respectful way, and I get the same back.
I agree with what everyone said. But when I see the cops, I like, cause I'm not scared of them, but I like when I'm with cops, I keep my distance because I like to see how their attitude is, like how they're like normally, like how they're talking to people when they see them and stuff like that before I approach them and say anything to them. And if a cop has like a nasty attitude, that's when I would stay off because there's no telling if they could take their attitude out on you. And then all of a sudden you're the victim of a situation. So I think that a cop, if they have like a good attitude, you should talk to them and then talk to them in a respectful way. But if they have a bad attitude, then it's kind of a hard situation.
I want to thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Really good statements and comments here. Again, this is the Legacy I3 in Phoenix, Arizona. These students are with the Phoenix Union School District, and this is the Legacy I3 program, Innovation Inspired by Intelligence. Thank you for your time.